About the three choices. And one thing in particular that this judge said that these jurors could do. He just delivered what is being called really the pinnacle of all of this. He said that there is no need to agree on what has occurred. They can disagree on what the crime was among the three choices. Thus, this means that they could split 4-4-4, and the judge would still treat them unanimously. What does that mean?
Yeah. Well, it's really outrageous because in a normal criminal case, every statutory crime has what we call elements of the offense. Like in a bank robbery case, it's, you have to rob. It's got to be a financial institution. You have to show intent. Those are the things the jury has to agree on unanimously that they were proved beyond a reasonable doubt. Here, what we're doing is taking the element that actually makes this a felony, because remember, falsification of records is normally a misdemeanor in New York. What makes it a felony is that you're concealing or committing another crime. And here the judge is telling them they don't have to agree about what the other crime is under circumstances where that not only is what makes this a felony, what makes it a 4-year potential prison penalty rather than a year or less, but it's also what gets us into the courtroom, because if this had been a misdemeanor, the time to bring this case would have lapsed in 2019. So the only reason they're still able to bring this case is because it's a felony, allegedly, and yet now the judge is saying, you don't have to agree on what the felony is.
Of course you don't. Of course you don't have to agree on the crime. Of course not, because we don't even know what the crime is. We've been doing this for 4 freaking weeks, and we don't even know what crime Trump is being accused of. It's beyond insane. This circus, this kangaroo court, this insult to kangaroo courts has just reached a whole new level of insanity. And we're here to talk about it and trying to make sense of the nonsensical gang. Greetings, everyone. It's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, your voice of sanity in the midst of this insane world. We're here on a special live stream Thursday as we are watching here. We're just sort of, we got a verdict countdown here, our verdict watch. It's live stream Thursday. Great to have you all here with us. Come on in, one and all. If you want to ask me your questions, as many of you know, our super chats have been totally disabled. If you don't know, YouTube is completely demonetized our channel for, quote, harmful content. So our super chats have been completely disabled. But what these big tech tyrants did not know when they were canceling us is we were preparing for a moment just like this over the last several months. We've been building our ARC, our brand new Turley Talks app. It's a beautiful personal app that you can download completely free, as well as join one of our levels of support to help us out financially during this difficult time. Just click on that link below. Go to fight.turleytalks.com to make an account, download your app, and after you make an account, check out your email, because you're going to get a very special welcome email that has our Declaration of Restoration that you're going to be invited to sign. That's our petition to big tech to let them know their days are over. A new day is dawn. They no longer control us. We're taking our nation back. With this app, gang, we will never, ever, ever be separated from one another. No big tech oligarchs could ever get in the way between us. And if you want to ask me a question today on our special live stream, just go to fight.turleytalks.com, sign up for any level of support, and you will automatically be entered into our private backstage virtual platform where you can ask me any question you like. I'll be happy to answer it here on this live stream. So just click on that link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com, sign up for any level of support, and I'll answer your questions on this live stream. It will be my honor. All right, so let's dive right in here. As you know, deliberation, I'm going to be constantly looking at Twitter or X now. I think it is official X, right? X.com, to see if there's any updates, and let us know in the chat as well if there are any updates on a verdict. Deliberations continue regarding Trump's hush money trial. I think we're pretty safe in assuming right now that there's at least one rabble rouser. There's at least one holdout If this were a slam dunk conviction, the jury would have already returned their verdict. Most believe that the fact that this is taking so long is suggestive that there is no agreement among the jurists one way or the other. And that does suggest, as we speak right now, at least a hung jury. Or does it? I mean, many of you heard about the outrageous ruling, what is but the latest outrageous ruling coming from a whole series of outrageous rulings from this ridiculous excuse for a judge, Judge Merchan, the Merchant of Venice, or the Merchant of Vengeance, as I've heard him being put. A number of outlets are reporting that legal minds are frankly beside themselves at how this judge in the Trump hush money case has instructed jurors on rendering their verdict. Merchan reportedly told jurors, get this, that he told them that they do not need to agree on what occurred, that they can actually disagree on the crime that Trump supposedly committed, and he'll still count that disagreement as a conviction. I mean, it's beyond insane. I mean, the very fact that the Washington Post is engaged in such exegetical cartwheels to try to defend this decision today tells you all that you need to know. My namesake, Jonathan Turley, is calling it the coup de grace instruction. This is what he tweeted out. You see it right there. Jonathan Turley, Merchan just delivered the coup de grace instruction. He said there is no need to agree on what actually occurred. They can disagree on what the crime was among the three choices. Thus, this means that they could split 4-4-4, and this judge will still treat that as unanimous. It's a coup de grace, or final kill shot, precisely because it was obviously meant to guarantee a conviction. This trial it's beyond insane at this point. They're not even trying to hide it. So as I understand, the jury has three choices before them. They've got that Trump violated federal election law, and that he was, in that the hush money was there trying to cover up Stormy Daniels from the election. Problem is, of course, hush money isn't specific to an election expense, right? Like paying a pollster or something like that. So he's either guilty, guilty of federal election law crimes, guilty of tax crimes, and guilty of filing false business records. Those are their three choices they have. And apparently they don't have to agree on what he actually did to violate any one of those three choices. I mean, we're basically being told they don't have to agree as to what Trump actually did wrong, what actually crime he committed to convict him. I mean, this decision would not be allowed in Zimbabwe. This would be illegal in Zimbabwe. Let's put it that way. Or in the Congo. Kim Jong-un would blush over something like this. Come on, guys. You don't want to give away the Kabuki Theater that bad, right? Moreover, the same judge, he even turned around and apparently refused to allow the jury a written copy of all the charges against Trump. What was it, the 32, 34 charges? I mean, again, you can't make this shit up. Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey tweeted out, quote, "This is insanity. I've tried many jury trials in my day. You give jurors paper instructions every time. How are 12 jurors supposed to remember the elements necessary for each of the 34 felony counts? This is an illicit witch hunt prosecution." It's not just the prosecution. It's not just the prosecution. It's the freaking court. It's the judge. And Attorney General Andrew Bailey, in all due respect, what the hell have you been doing about it? What the hell have you been doing about it these last several months? Why isn't Nancy Pelosi in cuffs right now? Why isn't Chuck Schumer getting a mugshot taken of him? Why is it Kamala in court right now? If a rogue Manhattan DA can do this to a former president, what the F is your excuse for doing nothing? You're a freaking attorney general of a deep red state. Why aren't you pressing charges and sticking Pelosi and Schumer and Harris in a Missouri courtroom right now? And if your effing response is, well, we don't have any legitimate charges against them, then you obviously don't know how this game is being played, and you need to step aside and make room for those who do. I've said it before. I will say it again. This is all happening to Trump only because feckless, cowardly, corrupt Republican establishment types are allowing it. If they push back half as hard against the Democrats in terms of their lawfare, just half of what the Democrats are doing in their weaponized legalism, you could be sure the Democrats would never even think about doing this again. They wouldn't even think about going through with this. But the very fact that the Democrats know they can get away with this, they know they can get away with this because Republicans aren't going to do jack shit other than fire off some nasty outrage tweets. All of that only emboldens the Democrats to do exactly what they're doing to President Trump. This judge is a partisan nut. Obviously so. I have another video scheduled to go over particularly four blatantly partisan acts this judge has engaged in the last 4 months. But anyway, he's a blatant partisan hack. He's totally and completely skewed the entire process so as to manufacture a fabricated conviction. So that means we do have to ask the question, what happens if and when President Trump is convicted? What happens if and when President Trump is convicted? What happens if this sham trial actually does what it's designed to do, and that's get him convicted? That is exactly what we're going to answer. But first, if you're just joining us, if you want to ask me your questions, because YouTube has suspended our super chats, completely demonetizing us, just click on that link below. Download our beautiful brand new app and join one of our levels of support, any level you like, and you have access to our own virtual platform. You can ask me all your questions. I'll be happy to answer them on this live stream. Just click on that link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com. Downloading the app is absolutely free. And this is huge given what the Democrats are doing right now. This is absolutely huge because you could see Republicans don't fight back. So the Democrats are free to cancel us in any way they want. They've already completely demonetized us, which was a blatant attempt to interrupt our relationship with one another. They thought I'd run away. They thought that because they demonetized us, I'd run away. I'd go back to the classroom. I'd go back to my lecture halls and my libraries. That's what they thought, right? When they demonetized us for putting out harmful content on our channel. My channel, harmful. We've got MSNBC on air 24/7, and they're calling our channel harmful content. I mean, it's hilarious. But nevertheless, we are living in what they call post-normal times. And that act of demonetizing us was supposed to send me home. It didn't. And it's because of you. You guys have gone, you've clicked on that link below, fight.turleytalks.com. You've downloaded the app totally free. And that way we can never, ever lose touch with each other. We have bypassed big tech oligarchs, and we have a way to stay in touch with each other 24/7 all the time. Never ever lose touch with each other. So just click on that link below and do it. Join one of the levels of support. We need that level of support, gang. All right. This was a real blow to us. This big financial blow. So join one of the levels of support, any level. And then you can ask me any question you like. I'll be happy to answer it on the live stream. You have access to a virtual platform there where we have backstage passes to access one another 24/7. You can ask me any of your question. I'll answer it right here, right now. Also, I do want to give a shout out to one of our sponsors. Thank God for our sponsors. Again, without them, there's just no way I could continue to do that. Without you and without our Patriot sponsors. You'll know, gang, if you've been a regular to this channel, you know I am absolutely passionate about gold, right? I love gold. And guess what? So do central banks. It's one of the chief reasons why the price of gold is skyrocketing. Have you seen it of late? Do your own research. You'll quickly find out that central banks around the world have started to gobble up gold. That's why the price of gold is expected to continue to climb, because when all is said and done, more and more nations are turning back to the timeless value of gold and silver as well. So that's why we have as one of our wonderful friends and sponsors, the amazing company Goldco, because they're patriots just like us, and they want to help you and guide you into getting into precious metals completely tax-free and penalty-free. They're really amazing. I simply could not recommend a company more than Goldco. In fact, if you click on that link below right now, you can get your very own absolutely free gold and silver kit. It is an amazing free resource that shows you step-by-step how to get into precious metals, even if your money's still in a retirement account, like an IRA or 401k. And again, just to show you how awesome the Patriots Goldco are, the best part is you may actually already qualify to get up to $10,000 in free silver. You heard that right. $10,000 in free silver. I mean, just think about that. Free silver, 10 grand. I told you they're best. So what are you waiting for? Get in on the action. All you need to do is click on the link below or go to turleytalkslikesgold.com and get your free gold and silver kit. That's it. It promises to be a real life changer. You're going to love it. All right, gang. Now, I think Trump has done all the right things up to this point. I think he has played the Democrats perfectly. All the polls are showing it. All the polls are showing it. He's running away. Biden is, did you hear about this? Biden is outspending Trump in Pennsylvania 4-1. Now, why? I don't know, because Republicans just suck. But Democrats are always outspending us 4-1. I guess they have Zuckerbucks or whatever. I don't know. But they're out, regardless. Biden is outspending Trump 4-1 in Pennsylvania. I'm seeing it. I'm every time I watch baseball, I'm in the right by the Phillies here. Every time I watch baseball, it's another Biden ad. Biden ad, Biden ad, Biden ad. It's pathetic. I'd say that's about it. I'd see 4 Biden ads for every one pro-Trump ad. And yet, Biden is losing Pennsylvania. On average, it's by about 2 to 3 points. Now, he's got to be up 4 or 5 points in Pennsylvania if he wants to win. And he's down 2 to 3. He's outspending Trump 4-1. But he keeps sinking in the polls. So, obviously, Trump has been doing something right here. And given the fact that, most of eastern Pennsylvania is New York, sleepover town. Lots of people like in Newtown or Bucks County actually work in New York and then commute back to where they live in Pennsylvania. Dick Morris was talking about this the other day. I think he was right. Trump has successfully framed this trial as a desperate attempt by the Democrats to take him out of the race that they know they cannot win otherwise. I mean, again, everyone's, Bill Maher, that smug, pathetic, liberal Bill Maher, keeps going, Trump's never going to concede. Trump's never going to concede this race. That's one thing I guarantee you, Trump is not going to concede. He's going to claim the race was stolen if he loses. What the fuck do you think is happening here, Bill? What is this? What's happening right in front of your freaking face with your big nose that you can't see? What are they doing? What are the Democrats doing right now? If this isn't if you don't see this as election interference, you're hopeless. You're hopeless. Absolutely hopeless. Act like some objective pundit political discourse. Yeah, right. Just another liberal hack. Another Democrat hack. Nothing more. Trump has effectively cast and framed what's happening in this courtroom as a desperate attempt by Democrats to take him out of a race they know they cannot otherwise win. And so what's fascinating is that successful framing in the process appears to have earned Trump the support of a mass number of voters who would otherwise not have voted for him. That's the irony here. That's the backlash that's happening, the blowback that's happening, the boomerang. In reframing this trial as the man, the establishment, unfairly trying to take him out, Trump has earned a mass number, particularly non-white voters, particularly non-white urban voters, who would otherwise most likely not have given him the time of day. Now, in case you have not seen this, take a look at a recent, believe it or not, MSNBC report on minority voters in the key swing state of Georgia. Check this out.
Good morning to you. You know, this is one of the most closely watched counties here in the key battleground state of Georgia. So it seemed like the perfect place to come out and talk to Republican voters and see all of the coverage, all of the things that we're talking about with this New York hush money trial. How is it impacting them down here? So I spoke with about 5 different Republicans, and they represent a very wide cross section, a very diverse group of Republican voters here in this county. And I asked them, how are they being impacted by this trial? Are they paying close attention? And what impact might a guilty verdict have on their decision to support the former president? Here's what they told me. Take a look. Do each of you support Donald Trump?
I do.
Yes. Yes for all 3 of you? Yes. Has this trial changed your opinion, even caused you to waver or question that at all?
No, it's actually caused me to support him more. I just don't believe there's a coincidence that we have a trial happening in Atlanta. We have one happening in New York. So the question people are beginning to ask themselves, like I did, is like, why now?
It's pretty much everybody says they're picking on him. You know, people are tired of going after him, and you see it in so many areas. It's really not a big issue in the party. Actually, they're really making everybody mad, and they look at a big bully, and the government is the bully.
This is going to be your first time casting a ballot. What is it for you that drives your support of the former president?
I think always fighting. I mean, he's taken so much just defense from news and everything, but he still hasn't given up. He keeps fighting to do what's right.
I've talked to many people who formerly identified as a Democrat. They have changed their political persuasion to independent, and they are looking forward to voting for Trump. Wow. Because now they find something in common with a political candidate at that level.
When you say they find commonality, what is that commonality?
They have felt persecuted by the system of American injustice. And it's not a stretch for them to think that Trump may be a victim as well. People see that there's some kind of commonality between himself and maybe all the black men that have been incarcerated and the families that have been impacted by black male incarceration.
Now, we've been arguing this for months now. And it's not just us. Rich Barris of the People's Pundit, Robert Barnes, Viva Fry, a number of analysts recognize the same thing. That mugshot made Trump officially gangsta, right? For millions of particularly non-white voters, he became in an instant, he became one of them. Voters who have consistently voted Democrat are now voting Trump almost based solely on the fact that that image made him one of them. How so? Easy. If you ask people, how many New York billionaires do you know? Or how many former presidents do you personally know? The answer is 0. But if you ask them, how many people do you know, you personally know, who've had mugshots taken of them and who have been victims of a rigged system against them? Well, what do you know? I know a lot. At some point in their lives, they know plenty of those people. In other words, the mugshot transferred Trump from one cultural space, an aloof, New York billionaire former president, to another cultural space, someone far more familiar, someone who's legally persecuted by an unfair and unjust system. And that transference has endeared Trump to voters that would never have given him the time of day prior to it. So given all of this, then, given all of that, what would a conviction coming out of this Manhattan hush money trial mean for Trump's support? Well, given these dynamics that we're seeing, particularly from minority voters, non-white voters, would Trump's support sag among them? Or would his support surge? Obviously, if he has effectively framed this court as a kangaroo court witch hunt, if he has effectively persuaded mass numbers of particularly non-white voters that he is getting victimized by the same rigged judicial system that so many of them believe they've been victimized by, what will the result of his conviction be? I think we can very plausibly predict Trump's support is going to skyrocket. Now, it may not happen at first. There is the problem, what's called response bias in the polling, right? We've talked about that before. Response bias is when the respondent purposely gives the answer he or she thinks the pollster is looking for because of an innate concern of being judged or whatever. So when a person is asked, when you're asked, would you still vote for President Trump, even though he's a convicted felon, you'd still vote for him? And they're like, oh, no. I'd never do that, right? You can, that's called response bias. You can expect a bit of that at first. So expect Trump's polls to take a dip in the first few days after a conviction. Okay, just steel yourself for that. But then if these dynamics are actually operative, if these are really happening here that we've identified, we should begin to see those polls what? Not just rebound, but surge. Surge beyond anything we have seen thus far. Take a look at this polling analysis coming out of CNN.
But apparently it's 44 days. You cracked the numbers. You've run the numbers. All right, let's take a look here. Think Trump did something illegal in the New York hush money case. I've been interested in whether or not these numbers would change at all during the course of this trial. Simply put, John, they have not. Pre-opening statements think Trump did something illegal, 46%. After the direct examination of Michael Cohen by the prosecution, look at where we are now, 46%. The percentage of Americans who think that the charges are very serious, in fact, dropped from 40% to a little bit more than 35% during the course of this trial. So, yes, perhaps things might have changed with those 12 jurors, but when it comes to the larger American public, there has been no change, at least so far, John.
Any possible reasons why?
Yeah, I think the question is, what's exactly cooking here? Why hasn't there been much of a change? Well, folks like you and me, real news junkies, might be paying really close attention to what's going on. The fact is, most Americans don't really care that much. So closely following news about economy, inflation, that's number one at 65%. Look at immigration, 52%. Election legitimacy, 49%. Abortion, 47%. All the way down on this list of issues tested by the Ipsos Knowledge Panel is Trump's court cases at 42%, significantly less than economy and inflation. The fact is, John, when we're looking at these numbers, what we see is Americans' minds aren't changing, and a big reason why Americans' minds aren't changing is at this particular point, John, they are tuned out of the conversation.
Yeah, that's CNN poll analyst Harry Annan, and he's arguing, as you could see, the anchor there is not particularly happy with what he's hearing. That CNN analyst Harry Annan is arguing that polling shows most voters do not care about what's happening in the New York trial. They could care less. Again, we have to remember, just ask Brazil, right? Lula, the current president, he served a couple of years in prison just before he won. and just barely beating out Bolsonaro. Look, people have made up their minds. They know who Biden is. They know who Trump is. And they're not taking what's happening in Manhattan seriously at this point. And so if that's the case, then I think we can safely predict. Again, we're going to have to see. We're going to have to see how it plays out. But I think we can safely predict that if anything, a conviction is only going to guarantee a Trump surge. Trump wins one way or the other. That's not wishful thinking. If I believe this was going to hurt Trump, I tell you that right now. And let's get ready to build red state bunkers at this point. Okay, if I believe this is really going to hurt Trump, I would tell you right now. But right now, as we speak, if it's a hung jury or an acquittal, he walks out of that courtroom spinning his cane, just laughing at just this pathetic failure in an attempt to try to convict him. If he gets convicted, his core constituency right now, rural white voters on the one hand and urban non-white voters on the other, they're both the two constituencies that most feel disenfranchised by a system rigged against them. So if he gets convicted by that very system, you can expect to see his support surge and hopefully a massive landslide in November. Over to you. Remember, gang, if you want to ask me your questions, because YouTube has suspended our super chats, just click on that link below. Download our beautiful brand new app. It's absolutely beautiful. Beautiful, brand new, best, most immaculate new app ever. I'm trying to do better. We have to get used to it if he's going to be our president for the next 4 years. So just click on that link below, join Fight, or go to fight.charlietalks.com. Download a beautiful free app. You'll love it. Well, that way our relationship can never, ever get interrupted by big tech overlords. At the same time, you can join one of our levels of support. You have access to our very own virtual platform. You can ask me all the questions that you like. There they are. Those are our levels of support: bronze, silver, gold, platinum, sapphire, diamond. Join one of our levels of support. Anyone, you'll automatically be entered into, be given access to our virtual platform. You can ask me any question you like. I'll be happy to answer it on this live stream. Speaking of, what do we got, Micah? Micah's our producer here. Do we have any questions? Yes. All right, Patty. And let me know, Micah, the questions in the chat of how many we've got so I can sort of gauge how to answer this. Hello from Columbus, Ohio. Hello, Patty. Dr. C, most of the sources I listened to agree that this trial will result in a guilty verdict. They also, because that's the way it was designed to do, right, Patty? They also believe in the grand scheme of things, it will be a precedent set that Trump will in turn be able to use once back in office. Your thoughts? Yes. I mean, that's obviously that's the way Trump plays. Trump's an eye for an eye kind of guy. He's made that very, very clear. And I do think if they do convict him and he does get back into office, all bets are off. I do. I think this is, and I think they know that, and that's why they're trying to do everything they possibly can to keep him from office. But they know they've crossed the Rubicon, and they know that weaponized legalism doesn't only work in one direction. It does, as long as you keep feckless, pathetic, cowardly, corrupt rhinos in office. Sure, it's only going to work one way, the Democrat side of things. But the moment you bring in MAGA forces, they're going to start using the weaponization of the law against the Democrats, against them. I agree. Good, Patty. Thank you. Paul, Judge Merchant said the jury doesn't even have to agree on the underlying charges against Trump. He obviously just wants him convicted. Do you think that SCOTUS or some higher court will step in? Yes, that's what we're hearing right now. Will probably even get overturned at the appellate process inside New York. But if New York appellate courts don't overturn it, the Supreme Court can overturn it pretty quickly. The problem is it probably won't happen before November. That's the problem for I wouldn't even say that's the problem. That's in terms of the process, it probably will not happen before November. Mark Levin thinks that he could get an expedited decision from the Supreme Court, perhaps. I thought he said as early as this summer. We'll see. But even then, the Supreme Court has been so radically partisanized by the Democrats. Nothing is going to benefit Trump from the appellate process. Nothing. What's going to benefit him, I believe, is either an acquittal or a hung jury, or on the one hand, the other hand, on the third hand, or even a conviction. Because either way, he comes out proving that this whole thing was a kangaroo court. Either way, in any of those three scenarios, he shows the whole thing was a kangaroo court. Either if they acquitted or they have a hung jury. Obviously, the jury didn't buy it. All right, this was a clown show, obviously. And then if he's convicted, you see that this was a ridiculous trial, and they baked into the cake a conviction. They even 444. They split it up any way they could, baked in the cake conviction. Either way, he comes out having demonstrated that this was a kangaroo court. Either way, I think he wins either way in that sense. Now, again, we do have to punch through. We're going to be dealing with the insanity of the legacy media calling him a convicted felon, and you're going to have the Biden White House trying to regain the leverage, the moral high ground by saying we cannot put a convicted felon back into the White House. Whatever, we're gonna have to punch through this, but I think we're going to have the wind at our backs after about a week or so, when people look at inflation, when people are dealing with the stagflation, when people are dealing with the insanity at the border, when they see the cognitive issues of Biden, when they see just the blatant legacy media bias behind it. I think in the end, they're like, wait, something's not up right. So something's up here. So there you go, Paul. And Paul, Judge Merchant told the Trump jury they must reach a unanimous verdict. If they can't, they should keep deliberating until they do. Is the judge trying to pressure the jury to bring a guilty verdict? He will sequester them until they do. Yes, obviously this is going to be obviously if he's now changed his tune and he will not allow for a hung jury, then obviously he's trying to pressure them to come up with. He wouldn't have said this if he doesn't believe there are just a few holdouts on behalf of President Trump, and he's trying to badger them. Hopefully, keep it in prayer. Hopefully, they will remain faithful to their consciences. Neil, since we don't get to choose the judges in our system, we should always have access to the process of the courts as like C-SPAN. We should have judicial span on all court processes. In other words, open to the public. I'm 1,000%, Neil. They're public institutions. Absolutely. You can always, you've got the, the circular, blurring out the face technology. I mean, what's the problem? Sure. I mean, you can protect identity and so forth. But I think it's to hold our public officials accountable. And they are corrupt, and they need to be held accountable. I think that's very good. Mickey, if Trump is convicted, will he have to go to prison? So that's the $10,000 question. So a lot of commentators think no, he's not. He could get house arrest, but he's not going to be put into an actual prison, again, just because of who he is, because of the requirements of Secret Service. Secret Service would have to be in prison with him at the same time. He'd have to have his own wing, basically. The Secret Service requirements would I think would preclude that. So I don't think so at this point. I don't think it. But again, if he did, like just ask Brazil, it only ends up enhancing your brand. People tend to actually like that. I like that in terms of voting for it. Joshua, are we seeing a lot more MAGA Republicans or racists nationwide? Or are we seeing a lot of rhinos winning primaries? I think it's a mixed bag. I mean, what did we see? What did we see in Texas on Tuesday? Was it 15? I can't remember. 1530. We saw a bunch of rhinos fall, which was really nice to see. The main one, what's his name? His last name begins with a PH. I'm forgetting his. The one who spearheaded the impeachment against Ken Paxton, won by only a few hundred votes in an open primary. Open primaries are contradictions in terms. I don't know why they do that. Well, I know why they do that. It's in order to keep the rhinos in power. But Democrats basically kept him in He only won by a few hundred votes, but pretty much a lot of establishment Bushite Republicans got voted out and solid red districts. And then we saw a lot of MAGA come in. Look, bottom line is if Republicans want to win, they got to go MAGA. Just ask the Tories in Britain right now. Look at how pathetic the Tories are doing after they went full-blown globalist. They went full-blown globalist. They rejected the Reform Party, Nigel Farage, kind of UKIP paradigm that voted a massive landslide win for them in December of 2019. And now they're about to get destroyed like by 20, maybe even 30 points by Labour. As a matter of fact, Reform Party, that's Nigel Farage's party, the sort of third party, Patriot Party there, may even at some point overtake the Tories. So if the Republicans want to destroy themselves, keep putting in rhinos. If they want to win, put in MAGA. America the Free. If Trump is convicted, will enough moderate voters move over to vote for Biden, swaying the entire election away from Trump? So that's what they're hoping. They're hoping to convince enough like suburban women that Trump bad, orange man bad. So far, we just haven't seen that data. We just haven't. Again, we've seen some response bias. Oh, no, I would never vote for a convicted felon. But we noticed that response bias has been waning of late. So that latest CNN poll, if he gets convicted, would you still vote for him? Yeah, I have no problem. So that's the hope, though. The hope is that enough moderate voters will run away from him. It seems to be a far-fetched hope because those same moderate voters still have to go to the grocery stores, still have to fill up their tanks. They still have to deal with inflation. They still have to deal with trying to get a loan, refinance their homes, whatever. And it's insane right now. It's just absolutely insane. Josh, are voters showing in the polls that they intend to vote Republican down ticket with the growing popularity of Trump? It seems to be changing in that direction, but they're not there yet, rightfully so. So Trump has that sweet spot we talk about where he has massive rural white vote support and the largest share of urban non-white support of any Republican in 50 years. We're going back to Nixon right now, back in 1972 or I forget what, 1960, whatever the time was that he got this massive number of, I mean, I know Kennedy won in 60, but there was the last time we have seen this level of support among minorities, among non-white voters, particularly urban voters, for a Republican presidential candidate was Richard Nixon. Okay. So that's the sweet spot for Trump. And he seems to have amassed that sweet spot by virtue, ironically, of this weaponized legalism, of this lawfare. The very same people that feel just as disenfranchised by the system as Trump is claiming he is a victim of, are galvanizing their support towards him. They see him as their man. Finally, somebody who's been a victim of the system as we have been. The down-ticket Republicans can't lay claim to that. So they haven't tapped into that political sweet spot yet, generally speaking. Now, we saw a huge discrepancy a couple of months ago between Trump and Cruz in Texas. Trump was up like 8, 9, and Cruz was up by like 1 or 2. That seems to have changed. Cruz is up around 6 now. Trump is up around 11. Again, still very interesting lag there, but not enough of one for us to be concerned about. So if the Republican Party embraces the MAGA message, embraces Trump, then hopefully they're able to nudge their way into that political sweet spot of the rural vote and the urban vote. That's just galvanizing around Trump. If they do, but just, again, if they do, they'll win. Let me finish my sentence. But who else could have done what he did in the South Bronx? Could DeSantis have done that? Who else could have done that? No one. No one else, right? Not even Marjorie Taylor Greene or anyone. No one else. There's something about Trump that appeals to the rural voter as much as to the urban voter at this point. That's the astonishing thing. So, but hopefully, again, and he will do his best to make sure that down ticket momentum occurs. Thanks, Josh. David, what is the latest SCOTUS outlook on Trump's immunity? Any update? I don't have any. Latest I heard, most analysts think he'll get it. He'll get it. They may backtrack a little bit here or there, but generally speaking, in order to prosecute a president after office, he has to have been impeached and convicted by the House of Representatives and the Senate. If that has not happened, you cannot try a president for anything committed while in office. Joe Wells, if the worst happens, will Trump be protected by Secret Service in prison? Yes, I believe so. Constitutionally, he's mandated to have Secret Service protection. Yeah, that's not going to be a problem. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, Trump is convicted. How quick do you think this is overturned? Then does Trump win New York? That's a great question. Again, what's happening in New York is astonishing. He is within he is more likely to win New York than Biden is Texas, right? Biden said Texas was in play. They even said Florida was in play. Trump is in a better position to win New York and New Jersey than Biden is to win Texas and Florida, just to give you the sense of the state of the race. So, no, I don't think it'll be overturned before November. But again, I don't think that matters to him. I don't think that matters. I think either way, he comes out a winner, given the sweet spot of his constituency. Dr. Steve, again, Red Eagle, Rock Dog. Red Eagle Politics had a poll on his video last night that shows President Trump and Beto Rock Dog, you're hilarious, and Beto Joe are tied in Virginia. I saw that. Do you think he has a chance of winning Virginia? Absolute freakingly. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. I actually did a video on that. My first Rock Dog. Should have seen it today. Did my first video on it today. I keep smacking into my bell. I got to be careful here. Yeah. So that is the Roanoke College poll. Roanoke College polling is very good. They were within 1 point of predicting 2020 in Virginia. They focus particularly entirely on Virginia. They've got a very good sense of how all the different counties are going to vote. And I think they predicted Biden would win by 11 in their last poll before November 3rd of 2020. Biden won by 10. So they were within the margin of error. They are a very good polling firm. They are showing a 13-point swing to Trump. Absolutely astonishing. And he is poised. And keep in mind, they overestimated Biden's support and underestimated Trump's support by 1 or 2 points. And so what does that mean? If they're both tied, what does that mean? Trump could take Virginia. He could take Virginia. He could take Minnesota right now. And he has a possibility of even taking New York. He is expanding the electoral map in a way that is absolutely flipping Biden out. You have to understand, they did not imagine in their worst nightmares that they would have to spend money in Virginia. They did in a state where they won by double digits last time. They never imagined their worst nightmares they'd have to be spending money in Minnesota, in the lone state that voted for Mondale in '84. But they have to. They have no choice. None. Because Trump is surging. Again, Trump is within single digits in terms of the margin against Biden in New York. I think Biden's up 9 in the state he won by 25. Right? Whereas Trump is up 12 in Texas. Trump has more of a chance of winning New York than Biden has of winning Texas. It's stunning stuff. It's absolutely incredible. That was not 2020. And that wasn't 2016, in fairness, even with Hillary. That wasn't even 2016. He's stronger today than he's ever been. That's why I think he's strong enough to weather this storm. Whatever happens in terms of the verdict, he's gonna rock it. David Jackson, putting on my evil genius hat, I wonder if this Trump trial conviction could be an assassination attempt. It could be pointed to as an administrative error, legal anomaly. He should not go into the prison system at all. I mean, obviously, him going into a prison is going to be fought tooth and nail in terms of his safety and the like. But I'm with you. It could. Again, but keep in mind. Well, first of all, pray for him. Pray that doesn't even happen. But David, if that did happen, I mean, the country's finished. It's over. I mean, if they went to that extent to get rid of him, and they did, I think the country's over. I just I don't know what to say. If ever we were going to see a civil war, it would be that. There's just no way around it. Gang, if you're just joining us, by the way, because YouTube has suspended our super chats, just click on the link below, download our beautiful brand new app, join one of the levels of support, and you have access to our very own virtual platform where you can ask me any question that you like. That's what everyone is doing here. I'll be happy to answer them on this live stream. We have been demonetized, unfortunately, by YouTube. So if you would just click on that link below, download a completely free app at fight.charlietalks.com, or just click on the link below. Join any level of support you like. You'll have access to our virtual platform. You can ask me the questions that you're seeing right there. I'll be happy to answer them on this live stream. What else have we got here, Micah? What do we got? Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, the Democrats for years have been talking about how they need to tear the system down because it's rigged against minorities and they're the saviors. Now, all the Democrats have done is show minorities it's they themselves who are the ones who have rigged the system against minorities and anyone that disagrees with them by going after Trump. Very possibly all the Democrats did was pull the veil off themselves to show themselves for who they really are. Dude, that is freaking brilliant. Yeah, I mean, we talk about refeudalization all the time on this channel, but Rock Dog, you're absolutely right. I've read of among scholars of both liberalism and scholars who are critical of liberalism, they both recognize that elitism is one of the key characteristics of liberalism. Liberals believe that they are in a unique position to rule over you. They are Rush used to talk about this all the time. They believe that they are part of an expert class that has the right to basically tell you how to live. And so they control all of the cultural institutions. And so when they talk about the system being rigged, particularly against minorities, ironically, it's a system that they operate control over. And what I think you're showing very astutely and brilliantly is that what particularly minorities are seeing happening in this Manhattan courtroom is how liberals and Democrats are the ones who actually rig the system that they see as so rigged against them. And that may be what is creating this political sweet spot of non-white urban voters going to Trump in ways no Democrat even imagined their worst nightmares just a few months ago. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, Democrats are the domestic enemies of the Constitution that the Founding Fathers warned us about. I love it. They are. They hate the country. I mean, that's very clear. They hate the country, and they want to overthrow it, but they want to overthrow it in such a way that benefits them financially and politically. Yeah. So yeah, they're trying to destroy the country, and feckless Rhino Republicans are letting them do it. David Jackson, the leftists want us to replace rational discourse with name calling. How can we stay rational ourselves when we want to punch Democrats? They're our neighbors and family. Can we regain a working respect for each other ever again? Well, that is one of the key characteristics of living in post-normal times, that advocacy that we need to regain. Even before rationality, we need to regain a sense of relationality. We need to regain a sense of empathy, sympathy, mutuality, in order to build back a functioning country. Because right now we're just simply not a functioning country anymore. How can you be a functioning country when half the population is stigmatized 24/7 as fascist neo-Nazi wannabes, right? Insurrectionists and terrorists and all that sort of stuff. So we're not a functioning country at that point. And this is one of the characteristics of what's known as post-normal times or post-normality. Post-normal times is a phrase that scholars use to analyze an interim period of transition, an interim period between an era that has come to an end, literally an end of an era, and an era that has yet to fully begin. and thereby establish a new order where things make sense again. So we're in a post-normal period that's in between the no longer and the not yet. And if that's the case, then what we have to understand is anything that made sense, like you just said, like rational discourse, anything that made sense in the past no longer can make sense today, can no longer be used as a frame of reference for understanding today, because the era that gave us those norms is dead. So the era that's dying is liberalism. The era of modernist, globalist, Western liberalism is dying. And a new era of what we call civilizationalism, nationalism, populism, traditionalism, tribalism, you name it, is rising. And so in between, the norms that we had in terms of liberal discourse have collapsed. They're gone. And so now we are shattering. This is what Stepan Mostrovich of Texas A&M refers to as social fission. The world, primarily in the West, not in the rest of the world, but in the West, our societies are breaking apart. They're going through like a big bang. They're shattering in terms of shrapnel, and we're reconfiguring ourselves around identity. We're moving from an age of ideology, which was the age of liberal democracy or communism or fascism, into now an age of identity, going back to a sense of nationalism, populism, traditionalism, tribalism, and the like. So identity politics reign today, either as MAGA, make America great again, that's an identity marker, or on the left in terms of BLM or the pro-Palestinian movements or La Raza or whatever it is. So we're in a time of tremendous, what's technically called complexity, where the unity that we used to have is completely broken apart. And so it's very, very hard for us to be able to talk anymore. And everything now is being defined in partisan loyalties. So you're either with us or against us kind of thing. And in such an interim period that is temporary, and it is evidence that we are moving more into a civilizationalist world. But in that interim period, the way we navigate is precisely like what you just said. What we have to do is we have to work to respect each other. So when people are rude to us and mean to us, this is why I'm always responding. You probably notice this. I'm always responding when I get to ask the question, how do I talk to family members that hate Trump, or my neighbor hates Trump, whatever? You talk to them through the prism of relationship and love. You don't talk to them trying to be right. You talk to them trying to reestablish or to maintain that relationship. Do you want to be right, or do you want a relationship? Start with the relationship. Hear them out. Listen to them. Consider what they have to say, even if it makes you nauseous. I know. Believe me, I know. And then show them that you value them more than you value wanting to be right. You do that, you're going to reestablish that respect, that mutuality, that empathy, and then they may be prone to hearing your opinion on things. But start with that. That's what we have to do, while at the same time doing everything you need to do to make sure to guarantee, volunteer your time, talent, and treasure to make sure we've got a fair and free elections. Right? You don't want to give that up. Make sure you're out there voting. Make sure you're doing everything you can to restore election integrity and the like. But in terms of personal relationships, focus on the relationship. Don't focus on being right. Focus on the relationship. Don't focus, because I promise you, it's not going to, in a post-normal setting, it's not going to work. Oh, but if I can argue that no, that's in a liberal, believe it or not, in a modern liberal democratic world. Yes, rational discourse was valued. It's not valued anymore. Just turn on MSNBC and you'll see. So there you go, David. Thank you. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, do you think the American people would look at it as fair and justified if within the first week of the new Trump presidency, criminal charges are filed against the Biden family, the Clinton family, the Obama, Schumer, Pelosi, Mayorkas, etc.? I don't know. Obviously, not everyone is going to cheer that like we would, but I think a lot of people would say, well, that's what you get. That's what you get, obviously. I mean, you weaponize the system against him. He won the election. Now, what do you think he's going to do to you? I think a lot of people would totally see that as as those getting their just desserts. Franz, would it be fair to say that the purpose of lawfare is not actually for a verdict, but rather to sway public opinion? Yes, that's what they thought. They thought that, well, that's not true. I think they believed that this verdict could actually get rid of Trump, like convince the Republican Party to get. Well, I guess no, it fits with your thesis. So I think they wanted to sway Republican opinion to find somebody else that they believe they could beat, which they're right. Again, only Trump has this political sweet spot that's giving him the magic 300 plus electoral votes. An analysis, by the way, of CNN that I featured in my first video today talks about that, with the Black and Latino vote going just 20%, Black vote going 20% Trump, and I believe Latino going 40% Trump. That's enough to give Trump Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Michigan, if I recall. Just that alone is enough to give him that 1-3% he needs to take those states. So they knew that if they could convince Republican establishment we need somebody else other than Trump, they knew that whoever they put in, DeSantis, Nikki Haley, they'd clean their Biden would clean their clucks because they don't have a governing coalition. They knew that. So they were expecting that the swaying of that public opinion, that establishment opinion. And then they're hoping, to sway enough, suburban women in their 30s to say, maybe I don't want to vote for Trump now because of Stormy Daniels. Again, I don't think it's going to work, but I think you're right. I think it's not just for the conviction, it's for the swaying of public opinion, because Biden can't win any other way. Marcode, I recently heard someone refer to Marxism and its children, including postmodernism, as societal Gnosticism, because they all ask the question, what would humanity be like without the societal imposition of X? Not a theologian. Would you agree that fits? Societal Gnosticism. Because they all ask the question, what would humanity be like without the societal imposition of X? I'd have to think about that, Marcode. Interesting. Societal Gnosticism. Marxism is a societal. I mean, so when I think of Gnosticism and the Gnostics, I'm thinking of a belief that sees the material world as inherently bad. So that's a key characteristic of Gnosticism, is that as I understand, there's a radical dualism between the divine spiritual world, which is good, which we can be reunited by through sacred knowledge, hence the term Gnostic, from the gnosko, the knowledge for Greek word for knowledge, and agnostic is one who does not know, for example, and thereby leave an evil material world that was created by the demiurge, right? Which is like basically the bastard son of Sophia, which is wisdom, a feminine spiritual being, if I recall, that sort of falls and ends up creating through this offspring of hers, this demiurge, a evil world. So the problem I have with Marxism is Marxism is generally very material, and it's not spiritual. If you go into postmodernity that denies like basic things like the relationship between biology and gender, for example, so one's gender identity but one's biology, and that's not necessarily the same, that's very Gnostic. In other words, an immaterial self is true and the body stands against truth. The body is bad. The body is somehow debilitating. That I would definitely see, to the extent that postmodernity can be rooted in Marxism, yeah. Marxism itself, I'd have to think. I've never made the connection between Marxism and a societal Gnosticism. So, Marco, let's chat more about that. Let's do that on one of our Monday night. Again, if you click on the link below at fight.turleytalks.com, join any one of the levels of support. You get to hang out with us on Monday nights, where we have our private Q&A with everyone who has downloaded the app or has just simply joined one of the levels of support. Franz, speaking of objective pundits, Andrew Weissman, I saw that. Oh, I don't even want to read any further. Franz, Andrew Weissman said that he has a man crush on Judge Merchan. Does this redefine the term pipe dream? Andrew Weissman, yeah. I mean, these are clowns. These are. I mean, what do you even say to this stuff? I mean, what is it? These are Hunger Game clowns. These are people who've just lost all moral authority. They've lost all intellectual objectivity. I mean, it's just beyond insane. Marco, can we ask the question, what would man be like without the societal imposition of societal Gnosticism? Don't know. Again, I'm not sure what you mean by that. I mean, so maybe, Marco, maybe I'm saying this, maybe I'm tracking with you rightly, maybe I'm not. You can let me know. But as I understand it, all human society has to be rooted in a sacred. And the sacred is considered absolute and unquestionable. It's generally considered eternal. It extends outside of time and space. And it's the very foundation of culture. It's the cult of culture. Why? Because the sacred creates a sense of social obligation. So, when I bend my knee to an altar, for example, I am showing to everyone that I obligate myself now. I accept the sanctity of this altar, and therefore I obligate myself to act in a way that's consistent with the ethical life of that altar, whatever it happens to be. And so what the sacred ends up doing is it creates transpersonal, transsubjective obligation. So if I say, I promise you that I will do a live stream on Friday morning, and I get up on Friday morning and I'm too tired and I don't, I just, the world's going too crazy and so forth. Doesn't matter what my subjective sense is. I obligated myself to you to do this, and I'm gonna trudge through and punch through all of the adversities and difficulties of putting together a live stream. Why? Because I made a commitment. I made a commitment to you. I made a social obligation to you. And to my understanding, there's not a single society, no matter how insane they are, not a single society that does not see a failure to fulfill your social obligations as inherently immoral. So the sacred ends up being the foundation for awakening transpersonal, transsubjective obligations that then unite us together as a social order. Without that sacred, what we found, like Petiram Sorokin, the American-Russian sociologist, without that sacred, social order unravels. That's what's happening to us today. Our social order is completely unraveling because we don't have a sustainable sacred anymore. So that's why we're going back. That's why you're seeing the re-traditionalization. We're going back to religion, nation, culture, custom, tradition as a basis for a reinvigorated social order, because without the sacred, social order unravels. Mark of the Roses. So which ideology is the advantage of the chaotic opportunity over the chaotic opportunity to rebuild? I wouldn't say, it's got to be one of the great religions. That's what we're finding around the world. I like the way Jordan Peterson says it. There are infinite ways of doing social order, but only a handful work. There are infinite ways of doing social order, right? San Francisco is trying to do one of them, but only a handful work. And when you look at that handful, they all go back to the great religious traditions: Christian civilization, Islamic civilization, Confucian civilization, Taoist, Buddhist, Shinto, Judaism. These are real. That's it. Those are basically your choices. You can get into the micro sort of pagan or indigenous gods traditions, but they're going to generally limit themselves to very small civilization. Rome was able to do a pretty impressive job with its paganism, but even then it ended up falling and being conquered, as it were, by the Christian tradition. So you're going to have to go back. For us, it's going to have to be Christianity. And that's the thing. We don't really get to choose because we're part of bigger titanic civilizations, Titan-like, I guess I should say, civilizations. So you don't really get to choose. I mean, Russia doesn't get to choose whether it's going to be an Orthodox civilization. India doesn't get to choose whether it's going to be Hindu. I mean, or Turkey, whether it's going to be Ottoman. I mean, it's baked into the cake of the civilization itself. Now, again, like I just pointed out, there can be conversions. There can be. That does happen. But it's going to be one of them. You're going to have to go to one of these. And so I think that's why we're seeing the world going back to religion so much right now. We're seeing the biggest, Rodney Stark at Baylor University argues, that's one of the reasons why we're seeing the biggest, most massive religious renewal the world has ever seen right now. Just Jules, how would Team Trump tackle jail or handle jail? He is Secret Service, or will Biden try to take that away too? Locking him up, he would be Epsteinized Clinton. Now that's a concern. And again, I think you'd have a civil war as a result. I do. I mean, I don't think the American people would stand for it. I don't. I think there would be not that I'm advocating it, but that I got to say those things, right? But that I think there would be a social unrest, the likes of which we've never seen. But no, I don't think he's going to be in prison. Indio 1960, Dr. Steve, please continue to remind us that God is in control. Thank you for all you do, Indio 1960. Gang, God is in control. Absolutely. No matter what happens, this story is much bigger. That the story that's being written is much bigger than we could ever imagine. You know, that's how, if I recall, Samwise Gamgee encouraged Frodo when Frodo had lost all hope. He saw that there's no way they were going to overcome Sauron and Mordor. And Samwise Gamgee said, but don't forget the stories we used to read as little hobbits, right? And he said, I never understood why I love those stories so much. But now I do. Now I get it, Mr. Frodo. I get it. You know, those were stories where the darkness was so dark you never thought you could ever see the light of day again. But we're always taught in those stories, no matter how dark it gets, the light always conquers. It's very important. It's the light that has being, not the darkness. Light is prior to darkness, because darkness is the absence of light. Light is not the absence of darkness. Light is light, literally, as we say in the Nicene Creed. Light is light. And darkness is the absence of light. Darkness is like a hole in a shirt. The shirt is not the hole. The hole is parasitic of the shirt. And so what Samwise Gamgee recognizes, by definition, the darkness cannot win. Because the darkness needs the light to be. It is parasitic. The light will one day shine again. And when it shines, it will shine all the brighter. And now I know why we love those stories. Because folk in those stories always had a chance to turn back, only they didn't. And they didn't because they were fighting for something. And that's when Frodo looks at Sam and says, what are we fighting for, Sam? And Sam says that there's good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it is worth fighting for. There's good in this world, and it's worth fighting. That's what people were holding on to something. And he said, what are we holding on to? That there's good in this world, and it's worth fighting. The evil is parasitic of the good. And the good, therefore, will always conquer. It will always win. God is in control. There you go, India. A couple of more, and then we'll wrap up here. Kenneth Bryant. Good to see you, Kenneth. Dr. Steve, given the momentum 45 has in spite of the Democrats' lawfare, do you think the Democrats in the deep state will be desperate enough to simply ignore a Trump victory in November, declare some bogus emergency, needing martial law? Yeah, they'll try anything and everything. They'll try anything and everything. Will it work is the fundamental. Everything they've tried thus far, like Wile E. Coyote and his Acme products, have blown up in their faces. So I don't think we have to worry about it. But they will try anything and everything they possibly can. Charkin, Sticks thinks Trump won't be in jail no matter what the verdict because of Secret Service. He also thinks this will be torn apart on appeal. Thinks this helps Trump no matter. I agree. What do you think, Charkin? Yeah, I agree. That's he's talking about Sticks Hexenhammer. I agree. I think Sticks is dead on this. I don't think he's going to end up in jail. I don't think that's going to work. Not with Secret Service. Again, they talk that way on CNN and MSNBC. But that's just the red meat for their dwindling left-wing audience. I think this does get torn apart on appeal. I don't think it'll even leave New York. I think New York appellate process will destroy it. And I do think it helps Trump no matter, because of the constituency that Trump has amassed, rural white folk, urban non-white folk, both of whom see themselves as disenfranchised from a rigged system. They're seeing Trump as a victim of that rigged system, and that will amass all the more towards his cause. Hence why he's doing so well in the polls in the midst of it. Thank you, Charkin. Marilyn Degotti, if Trump is convicted, Dems will try to pass legislation to stop him from being president. You think they'd be successful? Nah, they can't do anything in the House or the Senate at this point. They won't. It won't make past the Senate with the filibuster, and it wouldn't pass the House. So, Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, the Supreme Court rules that Trump has presidential immunity. When that on its own throw this entire New York case out as well, since they're accusing him of committing a crime after the election. Ooh, so I thought they were trying to accuse him of a crime during the election. So I think, yeah, no, because what you're saying is actually right. What he did in terms of entering the payment on a ledger as a legal payment, which it was. There is no category in when you're filling out your business record. There's no category for hush money payments. Okay, the money that was paid to a lawyer for business purposes. Right, Michael Cohen works for the Trump enterprise, the Trump organization. So it's so absurd, but it was actually entered in after the election. That's right. But then it couldn't be. This is the incoherence of this. But then it couldn't be an expense that was categorized as a business expense in order to hide it from an election that already happened. It's so absurd. So maybe it could. It's just, I would just rather see this thrown out on appeal at this point. But you're right. It might happen this summer. That Supreme Court decision. Marilyn Degotti, question: if Trump is convicted, Dems will try to pass later. Oh, we got no, they won't be successful on that. I saw that. Wreck Dog to Steve. In my lifetime, President Trump is like President Reagan, where he can relate to everyone across social and economic boundaries. I think that ties them together. What ties them together is a belief of American exceptionalism. Yeah, and a belief in MAGA, a belief in the sense that there's something sacred and beautiful about America that should be preserved, and they do not want to give it up. And so they want their borders secured. They want their economic security. They want to be an industrial powerhouse. They want to be energy independent. And they love our American traditions. They don't consider them to be racist and bigoted and all kinds of phobic. And they'd rather have months celebrating what it means to be a traditionalist America rather than always every month being another way of spitting in our face and demonizing more people. I think you're absolutely right. I think we're seeing the possibility of the South Bronx coming together with, with rural Lancaster like we've never seen before. It's absolutely stunning, and I love it. One more. Do we have one more? Franz, would it be fair to say that lawfare is a tactic in an information warfare campaign? Yeah. In an info war? Yeah, definitely. To the extent it's trying to sway public opinion? Yeah, definitely. To the extent that it starts injecting convicted felon into the national discourse? Yeah, definitely. Definitely. To the extent that it's using the supposed objectivity of our public institutions that nobody has any confidence in anymore. Trafalgar, 80% believe we live in a two-tier justice system. Yeah, no, definitely. I think you're right. All right, gang, that's going to do it for me. 2:00, hour and a half live stream. I will see you for another one tomorrow morning. We may have a verdict by then. If we do, we will analyze it, and I will try to help you stay sane in these insane times, gang. I love you so much. God bless. See you tomorrow morning.